There exists something peculiar regarding quietness within our modern connected era that deserves attention and understanding. Our current existence unfolds inside a reality where nearly every experience gets broadcasted and displayed openly. Morning beverages, celebrations of birth anniversaries, evening skies painted with colors, emotional breakdowns, moments of joy, even suffering adorned with digital enhancements, all find their way onto screens. However, certain individuals remain entirely hidden from view and choose invisibility as their preferred state. These people browse silently through content, watch carefully with keen observation, yet seldom or never contribute their own material to the endless stream of information. Perhaps someone within your circle behaves this way, or possibly you recognize these patterns within your own behavior and choices. This brings forth an inquiry that continuously occupies people's thoughts and sparks curiosity. What drives this decision? What motivates individuals to select invisibility when our entire civilization appears to be screaming desperately for recognition and notice? Many quickly conclude that those avoiding posts simply possess timid personalities or prefer solitude and isolation. Nevertheless, this explanation barely scratches the surface of a much deeper truth. Underneath what we observe lies a complete framework of mental processes and emotional mechanics that reveals profound insights about human behavior, how we view ourselves, and the silent resistance against a society fixated on being noticed and acknowledged constantly. Consider this perspective carefully, because for certain individuals, remaining quiet does not represent void or absence of thought. Instead, it signifies power and deliberate choice regarding what information the world never gains access to or learns about them. Whether we openly acknowledge this reality or choose denial, digital platforms have gradually transformed how we construct and define our identities and sense of self. These systems celebrate exhibition and reward creating commotion. Paradoxically, those selecting shadows as their dwelling place frequently possess the sharpest vision and clearest understanding. They observe situations without feeling compelled to interfere or interrupt. They engage in contemplation before generating responses. They examine circumstances thoroughly before forming opinions or passing judgment on others. Researchers studying the mind have uncovered something truly captivating about this phenomenon. Individuals who consciously limit their posting frequency typically demonstrate elevated levels of qualities including self-discipline, looking inward for answers, and emotional self-sufficiency that doesn't depend on others. These people show reduced susceptibility to measuring themselves against others and seeking approval from external sources for their worth. Stated differently, they aren't attempting to demonstrate their identity to anyone else. Rather, they're engaged in the process of comprehending it for themselves alone. Within a civilization submerged in constant performance and staged authenticity, such genuine self-exploration becomes increasingly uncommon and precious. We must face an honest truth because the majority of content we share transcends mere communication between individuals. It functions as identity construction and careful crafting of how others perceive us. Every post becomes an unconscious performance, seeking acceptance and belonging from our audience. Each photograph selected, every written description, all status declarations essentially communicate a single message stating, "This represents my true self, and I require your validation and approval." However, when posting ceases entirely, a fundamental transformation occurs in one's relationship with self-worth. Your value becomes disconnected from digital applause and approval from strangers or acquaintances. Your thoughts stop automatically formatting themselves into shareable captions designed for consumption. You rediscover the experience of living moments purely for personal enjoyment, rather than capturing them through a camera lens for others to witness. This represents the hidden psychological mechanism driving numerous individuals who abstain from posting content online. They hunger for genuine authenticity within an environment where everything appears carefully rehearsed and artificial. Their relationship with digital platforms isn't characterized by hatred or complete rejection. They simply cannot locate their authentic selves reflected within these spaces anymore. This choice doesn't stem from opposition toward technology or antisocial tendencies and preferences. It represents refusal to compress the richness of existence into curated highlights and edited snippets. When you've witnessed how effortlessly perception can be manipulated and reality distorted, you begin treasuring elements that resist being posted or shared. Quietness, profound depth, accepting flaws, and unfiltered honesty gain new value. For numerous people, the choice to stop posting emerges following a period of emotional exhaustion and burnout. Perhaps they previously shared everything openly until suddenly it ceased feeling authentic or real to them. They recognized that each time they broadcasted something beautiful, an invisible obligation emerged to continuously surpass previous posts. Their existence stopped being lived and transformed entirely into performance art for consumption. Consequently, they departed quietly without fanfare. No formal announcement was made, just a gradual fading from feeds and timelines. Yet here lies what frequently gets misinterpreted by observers. Choosing not to post doesn't indicate absence of emotions or feelings. It doesn't suggest indifference toward life or relationships. Often it signals they care excessively about genuine presence, discovering actual meaning, and protecting what holds sacred value in their lives. Psychology recognizes a framework called psychological ownership, which describes the sensation that something belongs intimately to you, including thoughts, memories, and experiences. When you broadcast it publicly, that ownership sensation diminishes slightly. The moment transforms into shared property, becoming vulnerable to criticism, misunderstanding, even ridicule from others. Therefore, individuals who refrain from posting frequently protect their ownership over life itself. They maintain their moments untouchable, kept private, preserved in pure form. Perhaps this doesn't represent sadness or social withdrawal at all. Perhaps it constitutes a quiet variety of liberation and freedom. Think carefully about this question, because when did you last accomplish something meaningful without experiencing the impulse to broadcast it? When did you most recently laugh genuinely, shed tears, or reach a goal without immediately considering posting about it on digital platforms? That automatic reaction, that compulsion to display your life, doesn't occur naturally within human beings. It represents learned behavior and conditioning developed over years. It results from a decade filled with approval buttons, sharing mechanisms, and chemical reward cycles, training our minds to equate external validation with personal value and worth. When somebody exits that system entirely, their choice might resemble rebellion against societal norms. However, it simultaneously functions as a healing process for their well-being. They begin rediscovering the beautiful simplicity of pursuing activities purely for personal satisfaction again. Preparing meals without photographing dishes, exploring new places without tagging locations, experiencing emotions without requiring explanations for others to understand. Within that reclaimed space, something powerful awakens inside them. It becomes a variety of self-knowledge that functions without requiring spectators or audiences watching constantly. Nevertheless, not every person abstaining from posting does so from a position of inner peace and contentment. Some individuals are motivated primarily by fear and anxiety. The dread of facing judgment, experiencing rejection, or having their true intentions misunderstood drives their silence. Digital platforms have intensified a subtle variety of nervousness that researchers identify as self-presentational pressure, which describes the unending awareness that others are observing you even during moments when nobody actually watches. For countless people, this burden becomes completely exhausting and overwhelming. They worry constantly that their words might be interpreted incorrectly or experience something worse, being completely ignored by their audience. Therefore, they withdraw into silence, not because connection holds no appeal, but because the price of remaining visible feels unbearably steep and demanding. They desire being truly seen, but only in authentic ways, never superficially or based on curated images. Ironically, sometimes the individuals maintaining the quietest presence online carry the most powerful thoughts swirling inside their consciousness. They aren't missing or absent from life. They overflow with ideas and observations. They simply select stillness and calm, instead of creating spectacle for entertainment. A profound philosophical meaning underlies that chosen silence and deliberate quietness. Within a civilization that constantly broadcasts the message stating, "Direct your attention toward me," selecting invisibility transforms into a method of self-definition and establishing identity. It communicates clearly, "My existence extends beyond your limited perception and understanding." These quiet individuals might scroll through other people's lives, nodding with recognition, smiling at shared experiences, sometimes feeling emotional pain. Yet they rarely project themselves outward, because they comprehend something most people overlook. Not every experience you encounter is designed to be witnessed by others watching. Sometimes the most transformative things occurring in life, including personal growth, processing grief, and undergoing transformation, happen quietly, remaining unseen and never posted anywhere. When you've survived enough of those private transformations, you begin understanding that remaining unseen differs completely from being insignificant or unimportant. Actually, it represents the space where identity becomes genuinely formed, never merely performed for approval. This reveals where the contradiction exists and creates confusion. Digital platforms were originally designed with the intention of connecting us and building relationships. However, they frequently generate feelings of increased isolation compared to previous eras. When you abandon posting entirely, you stop pursuing digital closeness and begin reconstructing genuine connections instead. You start paying attention to who reaches out to check on your well-being without needing status updates. You discover who keeps you in their memory without constant reminders of your existence. That variety of connection, unpolished, unbroadcasted, genuine, feels significantly heavier, warmer, and infinitely more authentic than digital interactions. The individuals who refrain from posting inhabit that space comfortably. They construct relationships that don't require visible proof or documentation. They discover comfort within unshared moments, and they allow life to progress naturally without converting it into consumable content for others. Part of this behavior also connects to identity security and having a stable sense of self. Understanding who you truly are, even when nobody observes your actions, matters tremendously. When you feel comfortable within your own company and presence, you don't require an audience to confirm your value or worth. This doesn't represent arrogance or superiority over others. It represents inner peace and contentment. Paradoxically, the same individuals who don't post frequently possess the most fascinating stories and experiences to share. However, they preserve them for moments when you're positioned across the table face to face, not separated by screens and distance. Genuine connection for them isn't quantified through comment counts or approval buttons. It exists in shared silence, in eyes meeting directly, in laughter that doesn't require witnesses to validate its occurrence. These represent the people who carry entire worlds within their inner being, who process experiences profoundly, observe situations constantly with awareness, and comprehend quietly without announcing their understanding. They don't need the world to celebrate their existence with applause. They simply need to live it fully and authentically. Perhaps, just possibly, within a world so frantically desperate to be noticed, their silence isn't a character flaw or weakness. It functions as a mirror, providing a reminder that not everything meaningful requires being shared publicly. That sometimes the most genuinely human action you can perform is preserving something entirely for yourself alone. Understanding what's truly fascinating reveals itself over time, because the longer somebody remains disconnected from digital platforms, the more dramatically they begin perceiving the world through different perspectives. Colors appear more vibrant and richer. Time moves at a slower, more manageable pace. Conversations carry greater fullness and depth of meaning. It feels as though stepping away from constant noise makes everything tangible and real again. When you stop performing for audiences, you start genuinely experiencing life as it unfolds. Beauty exists quietly in moving through life without requiring proof, documenting every single step taken. You're not contemplating angles for photographs or considering lighting conditions or composing captions for posts. You're simply present, completely alive, existing inside the moment rather than observing it from outside as a spectator watching yourself. That experience represents something digital platforms rarely permit us to access anymore in our modern existence. However, the psychological mechanisms behind this behavior extend deeper than simple preference or personal taste. It connects fundamentally to how our minds process validation and approval from others. Every single time we post something on digital platforms and it receives attention, including approval buttons, written responses, or heart symbols, our brain releases dopamine, the identical chemical compound involved in reward systems and addiction patterns. Gradually, over time, we develop cravings for that validation and external approval. We begin thinking in terms of shareable experiences rather than authentic ones that exist purely for ourselves. Now imagine somebody who actively resists that cycle and feedback loop. Someone who intentionally chooses to disconnect themselves from the dopamine reward cycle entirely. That doesn't represent disinterest or apathy toward life. That represents discipline and self-control requiring effort. It demands self-awareness to resist something specifically designed to maintain your engagement and keep you dependent on it. Individuals who abstain from posting often demonstrate a robust internal locus of control, which represents a psychological term indicating their sense of value and happiness originates from within themselves, not from seeking approval externally. They don't require the digital echo repeatedly telling them you're sufficient to actually believe that truth about themselves. Here's what becomes even more intriguing when examining this behavior pattern. Research studies demonstrate that people who take extended breaks from posting or consuming digital platform content frequently experience a measurable improvement in emotional stability and overall life satisfaction. The reason connects to how identity develops, because when your sense of self stops being constantly reflected back through digital mirrors, it becomes solid and stable. It transforms into something real and enduring. You're no longer editing your existence into something easily digestible for mass consumption. You're living it completely in all its chaotic, beautiful, unfiltered complexity and richness. Perhaps that represents the genuine rebellion occurring here, remaining whole and complete within a world that distributes rewards for presenting fragments of yourself. However, silence maintained on digital platforms doesn't always indicate serenity or inner peace. Sometimes it conceals exhaustion running deep within someone's core. For countless individuals, digital platforms transformed into places where they initially sought connection and community, but ultimately ended up feeling completely drained of energy. A subtle emotional fatigue develops from constantly witnessing everyone's highlight presentations while you're still attempting to assemble your own behind-the-scenes reality. You begin comparing yourself even when you don't intend to make those comparisons. You start questioning your personal worth even when you possess better knowledge. Eventually, certain people decide to step away, not driven by bitterness or resentment, but motivated by self-preservation and protecting their well-being. They realize they don't owe the world a performance or show. They don't owe anyone an explanation justifying their silence. They don't need to continue proving they're happy just to be believed by others watching. That represents one of the quiet truths defining this generation's experience. We've created confusion between visibility and actual value. We assume that to matter genuinely, we must be noticed constantly. However, real meaning doesn't require witnesses observing it. Some of the most meaningful moments throughout your life, the ones that shape who you fundamentally become, will happen without a single person watching or observing. No cameras capturing images, no captions describing feelings, no audience applauding, just you existing alone. Perhaps that's what those who don't post understand most clearly and deeply. They know that privacy doesn't equal loneliness or isolation. It represents intimacy with yourself and your authentic self. When you stop broadcasting every thought that crosses your mind, you start hearing your own voice again clearly. You start reconnecting with the parts of yourself that got lost inside the noise and constant chatter. Your quiet desires, your unspoken fears, your inner compass guiding decisions, they all return. That experience holds something profoundly spiritual within today's world and modern existence. It's not a withdrawal from society or relationships. It represents a homecoming to yourself. Naturally, it's not always peaceful or without struggle. Moments of doubt emerge, wondering if silence renders you invisible, if you're falling behind while everyone else performs progress and success. However, with time passing and patience, you start noticing something beautiful developing. Your worth doesn't vanish when nobody's looking at you or paying attention. It remains there, steady and reliable, like the hum of a quiet room following a storm passing through. Perhaps that's what real confidence actually resembles in practice, not the loud declaration of self broadcasted online, but the calm assurance of self experienced offline in private moments. Some people question, if you didn't post it publicly, did it even happen or exist? However, the truth reveals that things shaping you most profoundly rarely make it to the feed or timeline. Your growth, your heartbreaks, your private victories, your quiet acts of kindness toward others, they live inside memory, not media platforms. Perhaps that's sufficient and enough. When psychologists discuss authentic self-expression, they emphasize congruence, which means the alignment between who you are inside and who you show to the world externally. But within the age of filters and digital enhancement, that alignment becomes constantly distorted and manipulated. You begin to live as a version of yourself, curated specifically for approval and acceptance. So when someone chooses not to post anything, it might be their method of staying congruent, of preserving that fragile truth between their inner and outer world carefully. They don't need everyone to see what they're feeling to validate that it's real and authentic. They don't need to capture every sunset to remember how it felt experiencing it. They live their life fully and quietly, without announcement. Here's the paradox emerging clearly. Those who live quietly often feel life most intensely and deeply. They're not distracted by the performance aspect of it. They absorb details others miss completely. The way light changes on a wall, the pause before someone speaks their truth, the sound of distant laughter carried on wind. They are present, and presence represents the rarest currency in a world built entirely on attention-seeking. But sometimes that very presence makes them misunderstood by others observing from outside. People might label them as detached, mysterious, even cold or uncaring about relationships. Yet, if you look closer with genuine attention, their silence isn't emptiness or void of meaning. It's depth and substance. It's the calm that comes from no longer needing to explain yourself to be understood by others. There's a quiet confidence that comes from not needing to be known by everyone around you, just understood by a few carefully selected people. That's what the people who don't post understand best and most clearly. They know that not every truth is meant for the crowd or masses, that some parts of you deserve to remain untouched by algorithms and opinions from strangers. Because once something becomes public and shared widely, it stops being purely yours to control. It belongs to interpretation, to judgment, to trends passing quickly. Perhaps some moments are too sacred for that treatment and exposure. So the next time you notice someone who never posts anything, Don't assume they're hiding from the world or avoiding life. Maybe they're just living authentically instead. Maybe they found peace in the quiet corners of existence and daily living, the ones not lit by the blue glow of a screen constantly. Maybe they're the ones who've remembered what the rest of us forgot long ago. That being unseen doesn't mean being alone or isolated from connection. That being quiet doesn't mean being empty or lacking substance. That sometimes the truest expression of who you are is silence itself. Because in the end, we're not meant to be performances staged for audiences. We're meant to be people living genuine lives. And the people who don't post, they remind us of that every quiet, unfiltered, beautifully invisible day they choose authenticity over display, depth over spectacle, and presence over performance for others watching.